On this last episode of the Camp Owners Podcast, Season 6, Episode 76, we sat down with co owners and directors of the newly launched Camp Eastwood, Lauren Beckwith and Stacey Levy. Together, these two phenomenal camp leaders bring 40 years of combined experience in education, coaching, and the camp industry, each coming from some experience with Camp Manitou and Camp Somerset. They are incredible. We loved this conversation, just learning like, how did this start? What did you do to make this happen? What are you thinking about? How are you making this your own? This is part one. And then part two will be after camp season, hearing about how it went. So we hope you enjoyed this as much as we did. We loved talking with them. We're super excited for their camp season and also can't wait for the next season of the Camp Owners Podcast to hear how it went. So take a listen, enjoy, and good luck this summer.
This is the Camp Owners Podcast from Go Camp Pro, exploring best practices and issues that professionals in the private camp industry face every day. You can find our show notes at gocamp.pro/ownerspod.
Activity schedules are the backbone of every camper's experience. If there's a staffing change, it's really hard to find a person that knows your camp and the nuance your schedule takes. Come check out Camptivities to learn more about our scheduling tools designed for camps by camp people. Find out more at camptivities.com. Welcome to the Camp Owners Podcast, a space for camp owners to talk about the unique aspects of camp ownership and get inspired by each other. We sat down with camp industry experts, leaders, and fellow camp owners to discuss the big issues in the private camp world. Hello, everybody. My name is Kelly Shuna. I'm the co owner and executive director of Hidden Pines Ranch, located in Stillwater, Minnesota.
Hi, everybody. I'm Howie Grossinger, and I am the co-owner and director of Camp Robin Hood, a day camp in the suburbs of Toronto, and also the co-owner of Camp Walden, a beautiful overnight camp, co-ed overnight camp in the Northern Ontario area. So we're really happy to be here. If you are looking to find and subscribe to the Camp Owners Podcast, you can either find us online at gocamp.pro/ownerspod or by searching for us in your favorite podcast app. Finally, if you're listening to this and think it would be useful to other camp owners or aspiring camp owners in your circle, please feel free to send them a note to listen. And of course, we couldn't do this without our amazing sponsors, Camptivities. My hope by now, our entire listenership, the camp industry, is familiar with Camptivities and the great team over there. If you haven't checked them out, please do. And we're so thankful that Ryan Rosen and his team sponsor our show. Hello, Kelly.
Hi, friend. How are you?
I'm good. Kelly, it's the end of season 6.
Wow. No, that's crazy, Howie. I can't believe it. Season 6. And this is what, episode like
What are we at?
76? Look at us. We're like
Look,
getting
like
close to the 100.
I know we're like podcast people, actually.
Yes,
Look at
in
this
our own minds, yes,
the
we
little
are.
thing
Yes,
that
we are.
grew thanks to Travis and the team bringing us together like that. And we are here recording our last episode of season 6 in the spring before or just as all the craziness is really happening. So we're happy to do this, and we're happy to introduce our guests in a second who are taking time out of their busy planning to join us. But Kelly, looking forward to the season?
Yeah, I am. Things are getting a little spicy, heated up. You know how it goes of like, oh, okay, summer's
Yeah,
almost here. Yeah,
summer
I'm
is
excited. It's going to be great, but I'm definitely starting to feel the heat. What about you?
Yeah, same. I think up here in our neck of the woods, the sites are thawing out and the ice is off the lake, and we're all getting ready to, discover what Mother Nature had in store for us over the winter and clean up our sites. I'm sure everyone's doing that, but it's an exciting time. It's every year it's the same cycle of what is yet to come. And I think it re-energizes all of us who do this full time. And yeah, you can just see all the energy starting and all the young people who are excited to help us do this. Our staff are checking in a lot. So, end of season 6, last episode before we take a break, and then we will be back. If people were wondering, I don't know if people had bet in the prediction markets, which are very popular these days, if the Camp Owners Podcast is coming back, but I think we're slated to come back, Kelly.
Yeah, I think our friendship's going to be sponsored for at least one more year. I think that's
At
very
least one
positive.
more year. Well, we're super excited to have these amazing people on our show, and it's my pleasure in this episode for us to sit down with the co-owners and directors of the newly launched Camp Eastwood, Lauren Beckwith and Stacey Levy. With over 40 years of combined experience in education, coaching, and the camp industry, both hailing from Camp Manitou and Camp Somerset families of camps, Lauren and Stacey share their journey of creating a brand new camp experience with us today. We dive into their intentional philosophy, the importance of safety and well-being, and what it's like to build a camp culture from scratch. I am so excited for this conversation. Lauren and Stacey, welcome to the Camp Owners Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ellie. So excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Season 6. I feel honored that we get to end it with you. So
Yeah. And on a personal note, Stacey and I and her camp family from Manitou and Somerset got connected a few years back, and we really hit it off and had a wonderful time overseas at a camp conference. And we've stayed connected. And I was so excited to meet Lauren and hear about this new venture that you're in. And we really look forward to unpacking it all. And as with every episode, we just want to hear, and I think our listeners always want to hear the origin story. Like, how did your friendship start? How did your working relationship start? How did you get into this crazy world of actually starting a camp like this? And I know our listeners are going to be really eager to hear all the details.
Yeah, we're super excited. When we met at Tri-State, and Stacey has talked about you, Howie, for a while. And when you said, "Oh, we should have you on," I was like, "Yes, absolutely." And so we're super happy to be here. We have a good origin story, I think, a good shared origin story. So
Yeah,
do you
please.
want to hear it?
Yeah,
Can we
we'd
start?
love to hear it. Yes,
All
please.
right. So interestingly enough, Stacey and I both came to Camp Manitou. We're aging ourselves, but it was like 20 years ago now. So, and we both got to camp because our boyfriends at the time, who are now our husbands, were both working at Manitou. And so interestingly enough, I'll fast forward. So we quickly became friends, and we actually both found out we had a lot in common. We both grew up in New England, and we both played sports in college. And then we both got married at Manitou 2 weeks apart from each other. And then we both raised our kids at Manitou. So, now she gets to spend the summers with my daughters, which has been amazing. And here we are. There's lots more to it, but that's the gist of how we became fast friends.
yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. And as both being elementary school teachers, we had the summer off to continue, coming back summer after summer. And like Lauren said, I grew up on Cape Cod. I did smaller session camps, day camps, but my mom is a teacher, so we just hung out on the Cape. But, my now husband went to Manitou as a very young camper, and worked there and has been a part of the community for a very, very long time. So once he brought me into the world, I was hooked. And then when Somerset had the opportunity to open 9 years ago, I helped Kate and Josh open Somerset. So I'm even more in the camp world than he is now, ironically. So similar to Lauren. Yeah.
Oh, it's funny. Yeah, I did not go to camp growing up. Actually, I played sports growing up, and so really in the summer I was doing a lot of travel sports. But camp, I was like, no. I think I tried a day camp here and there, or maybe a rec camp, but I wanted nothing to do with any of it at all. I was definitely more of a homebody, and so it was quite interesting. I think having gone to college helped, me be able to sort of like step away. I think I can see now as a parent the value in how camp can actually help with college, but I had the opposite
Yeah.
experience. College helped me with camp. And, and then once I like learned what this was, I was definitely like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm hooked. And so like Stacey said, being a teacher, we could just we get to keep, coming back every summer. So it was amazing.
Yeah, and I can
I love
identify with
that.
your story too. I played travel sports growing up. I never went to overnight camp, and
Yeah.
I was a day camp person, limited day camp experiences each summer based on sort of sports schedules. And
Exactly.
I totally get that. Never wait. I didn't even go away for college. I stayed local, and so interesting about, being in this world and just the pathway takes you in so many different directions, you know. Kelly's story, she owns a camp that her husband went to. So it's crazy they bought that camp.
Wow.
Listen, the men just led us there, and then we took the reins
And then we took over.
ran.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Classic story.
And in my case, I just married really well, and my wife has been very
Yes, you
generous to
did.
give me a lot of,
Shout out to
right? So
Sari. Yes, you
shout out to
did.
Sari.
Yes, you did.
Love
Shout out to
it.
Sari.
Love it.
That's super cool. I love to hear how you came to be. So now then, let's get into how did
Yeah.
Camp Eastwood start? Tell us about its inception, how you just make, because I think that's one of the biggest things I think, Howie, that people want to know. And like when you talk about Tri-State, like those people who have this vision of
Yeah.
owning a camp, starting a camp, like these are the things, like how did you make this happen? How did this start? Like all the things. So tell us all
the
about it.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it was a combination of, the perfect storm a little bit where,
Yeah.
when we opened Somerset and it was new to the community as a girls' camp next to Manitou, and we gave a 2-week option as, something new because we had new families and we needed to offer something new. And as we've slowly not needed that at Somerset, there has still been a need for it at Somerset, at Manitou, kind of industry wide, where people are asking more and more for a shorter session option, whether camp isn't a part of their lives when they're younger, kind of like we were all saying at some point, or it is, but they need a little bit of stamina, these younger kids, to work up to stay. And so the need for the 1 and 2 week sessions has been something that we just saw the need for, and that there wasn't a lot of options that gave that. And it kind of like, close that gap in early child development to build confidence, build skills in an environment that was specifically for them at ages 6 through 10. Like we're just doing kindergarten through 4th grade, 6 through 10 years old, where some camps have to make their program around, 7 to 16 or whatever their range is. We are really, really focused and able to, help them, whether they're going to move towards a longer session camp or whether they just want the stamina to be able to do a week or 2 at a time. We want to create that really, really strong foundation for them. And so that stepping stone, we just really felt. And when my son went to Manitou at a really young age, he would fall asleep at dinner sometimes. And he was probably a little too young to stay 7 weeks at Manitou. And so, even personally as a parent, I saw that just like, oh, if there was a little something to warm him up before he had to have that. So, yeah.
I think too, so I'm coming, I haven't worked at Somerset at all, but like I said, my girls have been able to go, which has been amazing. But when I left teaching 2 years ago, and I joined camp full time at that point. I had been working for camp year round, but part-time doing program. And then I came on as an associate director. And, one of the things that we've seen a lot, we don't offer a short session at Manitou. And, as we have gone on post-COVID, one of the things we've seen is that there are a lot of people asking for it. And the kids are getting younger, and so we have seen this, like Stacey said, the gap between the age of when kids are starting and where they're at developmentally with their stamina and their skills and all the things, executive functioning skills, community living skill, all, and so we, between Somerset, the brains at Somerset and Manitou came up with this idea. So we are fortunate enough where we have a property that we are able to use. So we're not building from scratch. Somerset had that, on top of building a camp culture and figuring out everything, they also built a property. And so we've been able to really, I think one of the things that Cece and I we talk about it all the time. We're so fortunate that, because we've come from these two really successful camps with successful owners, and we've been able to learn from both of them, but then also still have the support from them right now. And we've seen Somerset and what that was like. Stacey lived that, and so she's been able to take a lot from that experience. And we're excited. It's crazy. We've got the countdown. We're getting so close.
That was one of the main questions I had, because when I was on your website, which is very, very cute, very good. I love the little acorn icons, but and the map. I want to talk later about who made that map, because I really like that a lot at the bottom.
Yeah.
So everyone go check out their website. But when I look at the visual of the property, which I love, page like right on the homepage, you can see it all. And I'm not a New Englander, so tell me a little bit more. So Somerset, because these are the questions again, like people who are like, I have this dream. How did you make this happen? So this was this camp, because I see like the pool and the cabins. Was that already a part of Somerset, and then they like branched it off to be your camp now, or this was already existing on that property? And were they using it or not using it? How
Yeah.
did that all work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
So
was an
back in,
existing. Yep.
yeah, go
for
ahead,
it.
Stace.
Mhm.
It
Yes,
was
back
an
in,
Good. We did it
This
again.
is great. We anticipated this, listeners.
Yeah.
We totally they are of one mind,
yeah.
but it's all good. Go for it. Whoever wants to go.
Yeah, paper, rock, scissors. Paper, rock,
Okay,
scissors.
I'll go.
Okay.
Back in 2007 or 2008, Manitou took a part of their property and opened up a theater camp. And so a theater camp has been running there for the last, what is it, 18 something years now. And so they're moving to a different site, and we are taking over the property that is already existing there. So the property has been functioning as a theater camp, but everything, the infrastructure is ready to go. And we're now just tailoring it to what our needs are. So
Right.
Awesome. Because that can sometimes be a challenge if it hasn't been used for camp. Like, what are capital improvements to get it up and going? So that's
yeah, we
really
have a few, but
great.
nothing. It's all, it's good. It's so
And if
good.
you look at how the property lays out in the picture, Kelly, too, which is one of the things that we really love about it, it's a very small, safe, easy to
Yeah.
see. Like the sight lines are really good. There's no getting lost when you're going from one area to another because you can really
Which-
see it. So for younger kids is like so
Yeah.
ideal.
And what a
Yep.
great marketing conversation to have with parents who are worried about this age group, particularly the younger ones, going off and knowing that, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, how big is your space? Will my kid be able to navigate it?
Mm-hmm.
Because our kids are not roaming in their neighborhoods the way that we
Exactly.
grew up to do. And so to be able to give them that reassurance that the site design is in such a way that can give them the peace of mind, which is our business, is giving parents peace of mind regardless of our program. Obviously a good feature. I'd like to go back maybe just to talk a little about chronological evolution of the concept, because Manitou, well established, Somerset comes along. I love your story about you guys, coming together, looking at each other. I know from my own personal experience, my partner at our overnight camp, we worked together at the day camp. And at some point, Sari, Saul, and I just looked at each other and said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we just did this together? Like it's just like, I know the feeling of when you look at friends and colleagues and people you're compatible with to say, let's do this. And then you have an entity or entities like Somerset and Manitou that become this part of this wonderful ecosystem to deliver on what you believe to be a real need. So can you just take me back? Like, you're launching. When did the first conversation happen? Was it pre-COVID? Was it post-COVID? Can you just dig into that a little bit? Because I think people want to know, like, depending on your situation, like from kind of concept to now delivery, has it been a
Yeah.
3-year process or less? Maybe you can dig into that.
Yeah, it's been about like a year and a half for the concept. And then it was like, are we doing 2027? Are we doing 2026? What does the timeline look like? What does it look like? The concept was there for a bit, but it took a while to get it to be. And it's funny that you said that, Howie. Like, I think that, the fact that Manitou and Somerset leadership had such like great faith in us to be able to do this coming from it was also like a boost of confidence for us. And I think that I was like, Lauren, you're going to be great. You got this. She's like, no, Stacey, you got this. And I'll support you. And then we were like, when you talked about like the leadership partnership is like, we are really compatible. Lauren runs the program logistics, like that's her jam at Manitou. And, at Somerset, and when I was at Manitou, I'm more of like staff heavy, camper care focused. So we really blended really well together to be like, and we've seen the partnership, JD and Dave, Kate and Josh, like partnership of 2 people working together to do this. And so I can't imagine doing it without Lauren or alone. Like, it just seemed like that partnership was made to be.
Yeah.
So figuring out that too, like how are our roles at Somerset and Manitou going to also evolve and work together to make this successful. And so we're both kind of have our feet in both for the off season to sort of transition people at both Somerset and Manitou, and for the first time ever moving to Eastwood in a couple weeks. So
And I think
Yeah.
that's a really important consideration. Like I think about you and Howie, Sari, and you have a lot of synergy, but you also have very like different strengths and things that like
Mhm.
you shine in. And like I think Lauren and Stacey talking about that, it's so nice to have a partner. And I think about that if Peter ever does this with me, right? Of like who would do what. But
Mm.
having a partner that you can work really well with and collaborate with, yet have those different things. Like I love the staffing, I love the
Mhm.
logistics. Like I do think that's a really important consideration when you're thinking about doing a venture like this versus like we both love the staff stuff, but wait, someone has
Mhm.
to do the logistics. No, I don't want to do it. Paper, rock, scissors, right?
Exactly.
So, I mean, everyone has to do things that maybe they like don't love, right? But I
Right.
think that that's cool that you already had that yin yang
Yes.
dynamic going or things that you brought to the table. That's pretty cool. I had another question again, thinking about people who are listening to this, like, oh my gosh, they made it happen. And we don't have to get into like the details, but I am curious about did you approach with this idea or did someone come to you? Because that's a question that people ask a lot of like, was did they want someone else to take over this property and they had this vision? Or were you like, we have this vision and we want to start this? Like how did that work?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. So Stacy and I think, part of like I said this before, but we laugh a lot about like how parallel our lives are. And so, Stacy taught for, gosh, I don't know, a long time, Stace, right? And we both taught elementary school. She was more in phys ed and I was more in the main classroom. And so, when Somerset opened and she had the opportunity to jump over from Manitou and she left teaching then, I think that was really, I think, exciting. And it was something that was like a new camp like that was so novel and so new, and so as I was moving on with my career and trying to navigate, as I had been teaching, since I'd like left college and started teaching, just trying to navigate naturally, like what's next in life and, how are things evolving. And that was when I moved on full time with Manitou. And so then I think from there, at that point, as we were both associate directors and sort of a little bit more at that point involved in a lot of the behind the scenes stuff of camp and how camp, seeing, it is so different. I have learned, seeing camp from, June, July, and August to then actually living, you talked about it, Howie, in the beginning, like the cycle. I knew the cycle of teaching and, I think at the base of it is still kids, but it is so different, right? When
Mhm.
school ends, camp starts. And so there's a lot of parallels there as well. But the past few years have just been learning the transition from teaching into camp world. And Stacey had already done that. So I was able to kind of actually lean on her a lot as I was in that transition because she had done it, 5 years before I did. And so, so after that happened and we both, really function. Manitou and Somerset it's so amazing because so much of it functions as like a bigger family. And so there's so much overlap in terms of relationships and staff and business and, and everything. And so once we were both working full time, the opportunity really came about. And so they approached us in terms of, would this ever be something that you would both be interested in doing? And so we kind of went from there. So
I was
Yeah.
reading, I was thinking, I always read like, because I run the staff usually at the camps that I read a lot of leadership books in the off season to like find one that I wanted to read. And I hadn't read Who Moved My Cheese in a really long time, but
Yeah.
friend of mine at Manitou had suggested it. So I was literally reading it, like a year and a half, 2 years ago, and they were like, "Hey, like we have this idea. Would you ever be interested?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm literally reading Who Moved My Cheese." I hadn't looked up in a long time and been like, "What do I want next?" And I was literally reading that book, and I was like, "This is a sign." Like
Yeah.
that like, you know, I think it's really good as female leaders too for people to see. And it obviously took a long time before we like went public with the idea, but even some of the younger like leadership staff at Somerset who were young women who were trying to figure out what their next steps are, they were like, this is so motivational to know that you can have a career change in your mid 40s. And it's nothing that I ever thought would be a part. And I thought I was going to be an elementary school teacher forever. And it was my dream and I was in love with it for a really long time. But camp has been a new inspiration professionally for me over the last few years. And it's been really good for me to be able to, because I tell them all the time, you don't have to at 23 years old do what you're going to do forever. You might, some people do, but you don't have to. And I think that even seeing them switch a little bit to be like, oh, that's really cool that two of the older people at camp are getting to do something brand new in their lives professionally. So yeah, I think that it was kind of brought to us, but once it was brought, we just moved
Yeah,
with
we
it.
sort of just went with it.
I
Well, I
love
think
that.
that,
I'm a big
yeah,
believer in that, like universe stuff. I just think, and
Yes.
yeah,
do I have to read this book? Do I have to read it or listen to it? I've never read
It's
that book.
very
yeah. It's
short, so it's
very
up to you.
short. Great
It's a
book.
very
Okay.
short book.
Yeah,
Okay.
really good. And yeah, there is totally an inspirational story around that whole that sort of the pathways that you've both taken to get to this place. And I think it can serve as an incredible element of the staff culture and what we do as much for staff as we do with kids in terms of helping them understand that this journey can take kinds of all these wonderful twists and turns. And I think you're doing, and as someone who is, the proud dad of a daughter who's coming in the industry and who's, seen the pathway that she's carved and has looked at her own mom and her grandma and all this stuff. Like, I think it's really wonderful. And I just thinking a lot about the comfort that you must feel in taking this huge leap into starting a camp, knowing that you have the support you do from being in the ecosystem that you are, whether it be the benefits of tried and true systems that you probably don't have to create from scratch, and you can augment and just maybe the approaches. Like, maybe you can speak to, digging into the philosophical approach of how this might be a differentiator from the Manitou Somerset ways. And I'm also very curious about, and Kelly and I, we talk a lot of this with guests about, like, the strategic plan of, will Manitou and Somerset have space for the over 10-year-olds? And, given registration, and I'm coming from a world of a day camp that's a feeder to an overnight camp. And I'm sure all of those things have been part of the conversations. And maybe we can just jump into some of the business
Yeah.
stuff of this, maybe a little bit, and the conversations you've had in terms of what is the strategic plan for creating this, which there's a need for, as Stacey, you're recognizing in your work with Lauren, that there might be that short stay stuff, but how can it kind of build towards making the entire world of these three camps kind of prosper? Maybe you guys could speak
Yeah.
to a little bit about those things.
I'm going to have Lauren talk a little bit more about the philosophy and the values and sort of like our mission for our strategic plan. But I just want to say that, like, yeah, like one of the amazing things that we have about this community is an ability to have younger siblings and younger cousins of the other, if you're a third child and you're like, I'm ready for camp, but I'm only in first grade, like, we're your answer, right? And so we do have that ability, but we also realize how much the camp world has opened up and that we can prepare people for whatever their long-term camp experience is if they want it. And whether that's, co-ed camp because we're co-ed and Manitou and Somerset are single sex, or whether your older brother already goes to a camp on Long Island but it's 7 weeks and that's where you want to go, but you need a little bit of a warm up, or your mom does, or whatever it is. So we've also been able to like have such great connections and partnerships with camps throughout New England and the US through some of these agencies to help with whatever the next step is for these families, and really be able to cater for camp owners and directors. Like, here's a camper profile that came from an actual camp, because we know that some parents are better filling out camper profiles than others.
Yeah.
And we're going to be able to tell you from our perspective, like how this camper can be successful, and also to the parents how their camper can be successful, or they can be successful as a family. So, and I do have to say that, like, for Lauren and I, who taught for both over 20 years, it does also feel like the first year of school again. Like, that first year of teaching, or that first year
Oh
of
my
anything,
God.
you really have to dig down and like start from scratch again, as much as we have like a, structure based on the other camps. And if I didn't have the Somerset experience, I would be like, oh my God, what are we doing? This is insane. But at least I can remember the beginning, but it is like the first year of teaching again. I'm like, oh, I'm a little too old for this, but we're almost there. We're almost there.
Listen, I think first year philosophy is like, if it doesn't burn down to the ground, it was a success. Like that was my thing of just Kelly, just don't burn it down. If it's still in one piece at
The
the end of the
bar's
summer, you did great. You did it. You succeeded. So it's gonna be great. But yes, it is a heavy lift, and it's scary and exciting and all the
All of it.
things.
I think every day, Stacey and I have every emotion possible. Just depends what time of day it is. And
Yeah, for sure.
I can go back to a little bit though of some of the business side of it. I think, one of the things that we find really fascinating is, and Stacey and I feel really strongly about this, is we feel like we know kids really well as professionals, like as elementary school teachers, as moms, as people who have been in the camp industry for a really long time. And I think for both of us, it's been really interesting, and I think kind of invigorating too, just to learn more of the business side of camp, because that's the part that we really haven't had a lot of experience with. And so leaning on Josh and Kate and JD and Dave for a lot of that has been really helpful, because I think that's the part that we feel probably like we're learning the most. And so I think having them, as sort of like a support for us has been, it's been humongous. And I think what's been really fun is being able to, because we know both camps, and we have a lot of siblings at both camps. And so we have a lot of things, a lot of systems that function sort of the same, but they're so different. The camps are so different at the same time. One's all boys, one's all girls. How JD and Dave run Manitou is so different from how Kate and Josh run Somerset. And so we have been able to live and experience both of them and be able to sort of say like, okay, what are the things that we want to take? What are the best parts of Manitou and Somerset that we want to take? What are the best parts of us as leaders, as camp professionals, as moms, as teachers, and sort of be able to just take it all and make something new. And that I think has been so fun. I've really enjoyed that so far. And I can't wait to just be at camp and be, living it every day. I'm so excited.
As a camp owner, you know your operational staff are the heartbeat of your program. They're the ones who would bleed for camp, staying up way too late, night after night, to make sure every camper gets a great schedule. Camptivities gives them their evenings back. Their software builds schedules around your camp's unique rules, saving time, cutting mistakes, and keeping your most dedicated people happy, energized, and ready to give campers the best summer ever. Camptivities does it all for camps. Auto-scheduling for staff, campers, groups, manual adjustments, over 70 reports for rosters and data analysis, tons of customizable settings, and so much more. Schedule smarter at camptivities.com. Now is the time to find a better way to schedule this summer. Don't wait. Next summer will be here before you know it. Camptivities would love to show you the next big thing in camp. Visit camptivities.com to set up a time to chat. Let Camptivities help you get away from your desk and back out to camp.
Well, if you think about so many of our colleagues who take over an existing program, right?
Yes.
And I can only speak from experience where like our biggest decision is, like some of the decisions we thought, oh, everyone will deal with, like we have hamburgers on Tuesday, but the new owners have them on Wednesday. Like the camp is going downhill right now, or or
Yes.
those types of things. Like you get to start traditions and systems and things that no one's had any experience about, and I think that is incredibly beneficial. And I'm sure lots of people listening who've had the process of transition and like people who buy camps, depending on the situation of the camp, they kind of have to just wrap their head like, okay, we can put our own stamp on it maybe in year 3 or 4,
Right.
because
It's gonna take
the
some
stuff,
time.
it's going to take some time. People need to get used to us, and people grieve. Camp families and campers and staff grieve over transition, and they have to get through that. And what a unique, wonderful opportunity, given all the things you're involved in, to do that. So I'm curious about even some of the connectivity to Somerset and Manitou, about what you're going to do for camp-wide events and how you're going to use what I would call like the naming conventions of things. What are you calling your big camp-wide? Your reactions tell me like,
Yes.
oh, we talk about this a
We can
lot.
talk.
So maybe you can
Yeah.
just take us through some of those conversations or the evolution of what you're borrowing, what you're creating from scratch. Maybe you're doing it all from scratch. I don't know, but it's a thing that people should be, maybe listen to the evolution of your conversations.
Yeah. Stacey, do you care if I jump in on this? I could
Yeah,
talk for
go
a
for
really
it.
long time on this, Holly. So cut me off when you need me to, because I will keep going. I think one of the things that has been for me, so one of my lenses, I've been running the program at Manitou for a few years now. And so I have the lens of what a Manitou boys camp, long session program is like. But again, we have kids that are 7 and we have kids that are 16. And so being able to really think about what makes the most sense developmentally for young kids, because they're really not just, they're not just like a smaller version. I mean, they are a smaller version, but they're not really just a smaller version, of the older kids. They're so different in their developmental age. What is what is going to work for them? And so we've had, I mean, endless and endless and endless and endless and endless conversations about what that looks like. And, what we really, the first layer of when we started building was sort of, and I think part of this came from our teaching background, was just sort of like, okay, what do we want our campers to walk away from Camp Eastwood knowing and being able to do, so that when they are either going to, the camp that their older siblings are at in New York, or they're going next door to Manitou or Somerset, because it doesn't matter, right? We know like we're going to have kids from all over, whether they're going to, no matter where they're going next, whatever their next step is. And even if we get them back for another year, that might happen, or 2, but maybe it's just one and done. And so having them come out of Eastwood, what do we want them to be able to, walk away with? And so we really had to then go from there and talk about, okay, well, what does that look like skill wise, in a short session, so then we started going down the list of like all the things that we're like, okay, wait a second, we don't have them for 7 weeks to be able to work on this for 7 weeks, though. Really, it's 2 weeks or 1 week. And so we did a lot of work with thinking about kids' development. What are the executive functioning skills that they're going to need to work on? What are the community living skills that they're going to need to work on? What are the self-care, what is the self-care going to look like for a 6-year-old coming in? What is it going to look like for them to learn, how to have conflict, how to have, all the different things. And so that was sort of like our first layer. And then we started building the program of, okay, so now what does the program need to look like so that we can get them there? And so that was then when we sort of layered in well, what would a schedule look like for a 6-year-old or a 10-year-old? Well, it's going to start earlier in the day and it's going to end earlier in the day than what we've been used to. We're going to have a
And
lot
a
of
lot,
snacks.
and a lot of snacks and a lot more
Lo-
free play and a lot more like
Yeah.
adventure. Lauren's been
Right.
really heavily into our woods and fairy gardens and outdoor kitchen
Nature
mud
play and
pies.
STEM
Just
stuff.
getting them
And
in there.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So the short of it is that was sort of like the layers of how we went. And then it was really just been so fun to just sort of brainstorm, what we want. And then it's slowly, we've been just refining it. And, and so I think our big 3 things have sort of been like, okay, the skill building piece, like how are we gonna, what can we do? What kind of support do they need to get there? What does that look like in a day? And so that we sort of have been thinking about, okay, well, proactively, what are the things that we know as moms and teachers and camp professionals that, that we can put, what sort of supports can we put in place and systems? And then they're going to have tantrums. They're going to be tired. They're going to be hungry. What are the things that we need to then have in place? So when things go bad, because they will, and that's how they're learning. And then how do we make it fun? Like we want it to be fun for them. We want it to be engaging, and we want, all the things. And so we've been able to take the best of the traditions. So we're going to have color war, like both camps do. They call it Summer Cup at Somerset, and we have color war at Manitou. But we're gonna build that in our 2-week program. They're going to go on one trip day, and they're going to have one bunk night. But our 1-weekers are just going to have a bunk night. We know that they really need a lot of routine, so we didn't really want to have a schedule for 5 days. It has to be pretty consistent. And so we kind of felt strongly that they needed to just stay on site and not go on a trip. But for the 2 weeks, we were like, okay, they can venture out midway and learn what it's like to go do that. And so one of the things that's also been really fun, that was another part of our base layer, is that Manitou has what we call core values, and Somerset has rings. They call them rings, but they're 4 rings and 4 values. They're all, and so we sort of had to decide pretty early on. We felt it was important to think about, well, what will our values be at Eastwood, and how can we incorporate that into our program? And so we had a long list of all these different things, and we really narrowed it down. And I had the idea, I thought, like, okay, for little kids, like they're not going to be able to understand some of the idea of some of this. And so as we were kind of narrowing down the things that we felt like were important, we decided to pair a forest animal that would represent that value. So I was like, oh my God, kids get animals. They love animals. Like if we can personify an animal that then can help the kids understand what it looks like to be brave. So we have a bear that is, going to be able to show the kids, what is that like when how is a bear brave, and what does that look like? And we have a deer that is going to represent choosing kindness. And we have one of the things that we felt like is really important is play. And so one of our values is play all day. So we have a river otter. So they're all forest animals. And so they're sort of the representation of the play all day. And then my favorite, I don't know, Stacey, which one's your favorite, but we have our last one is called Give a Hoot, which is sort of just like make an impact, but it's an owl. And so the kids will see these 4 forest friends, through all parts of our program. And we've been able to really weave that in a meaningful way. So it's been really fun. I've talked a lot, so I'll stop because I can keep going, but Stace, chime in if you want.
I thought about 2 things that like even like last week I discovered that the Manitou boys wear their pajamas to breakfast, and Lauren was like, I was like, can we have pajama breakfast? And she's like, what are you talking about? Don't the kids come in their
They
pajamas?
just
I said,
go to
"Oh, no,
breakfast in their PJs. And she was like,
we're all
Yep.
getting dressed. I
not
don't
the
know
case.
what is going on over there. Like we have like found out
That's
funny
so
things about
great.
the other camp. And I
Yeah.
think what's also interesting, and this is just came to me, that when we originally thought about the concept, we were really just going to do a bunch of 2-week sessions.
Mhm.
And then we all know as camp directors, like the calendar, when you look for next year, which is always hard. You're just like, oh, when should we start? When should we end? And
Yeah.
where does July 4th fall in? Where does school start fall in? Like there's all these things. And just the way that July 4th fell, we're like, well, why don't we try a week? Right. And so we'll do some 1 week and some 2-week sessions. And it just kind of came out of the calendar more than necessarily what we thought. And we'll just like, we'll see what people think if they want it as much as the 2-week. And some of the sessions that are 1 week has been a lot more popular than we thought. So I think also, as we were talking, Kelly, before, is like sometimes you have to adjust in the middle of your adjustment. Or I know we're going to take things on that seem like a really great intentional thing that we're like, nah, that didn't work. We're just going to have to
Yeah.
change it up, move on. But we haven't even opened and we were already like transitioning a bit. So being flexible with that has been really important.
Do 1 week and 2 week sessions coexist, or are they just separate? Are they in the camp?
They're separate. So kids will come
Yeah.
and leave on the same day. So like session 1 is 1 week, session 2 is
Gotcha.
2 weeks.
Gotcha.
Session 2 week, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Kelly, any thoughts? So many good things here. If I might, Kelly, I wanted to just chat with both of you a little bit about just building on what Lauren talked about with your school background, your mom background, the intentionality of delivering that younger kid first time overnight experience and what they need. Maybe we can just talk a little bit about staff training, about, can you talk a little bit about the target age group of your staff? A lot of camps have leadership training programs and you're dealing with kids up to 10. And how are you kind of designing the staff experience and the training and what you're looking for to deliver on this philosophy that you're obviously trying to hit the ground running on? So maybe you could speak to that and how it's going.
Yeah.
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 Can you include too? Sorry, I want to know what grades you taught. Like what
Yeah.
grade of teachers were you? Because I think that's an interesting how that plays
Yeah.
into this. Like what kind of kids you worked with.
Yeah. So I started in Boston. I worked at a 6 through 12 school for 10 years. And then when I moved to Denver, actually moved to a K through 8. So I've sort of done the gamut of that. Lauren was mostly elementary school, right, Lauren?
Yeah.
And the staff training we've thought a lot about. I mean, we've had to shift our brain, and we've had like so great collaboration, like shout out to Jackie. We've had lots of great collaboration of people who have our brain has been longer session brain for a really long time. And like to switch that, especially for me around the staff training and the staff hiring, is what is going to be important to them is a little bit different because their cabin is going to change regardless, where at a longer session camp, it might change. And some of the great advice we've gotten is that like the staff relationships are a lot deeper because they're the constant now more than the kids are, or the kids aren't, because we're having all these sessions. And like building up orientation looks a little bit different because you have to not only teach them all the things about all the sessions, but then you're only preparing for session one. And then what's it going to look like in between sessions to prepare for the next session, and how that works. So it's really been fun to play around with what is important for that, in terms of there is still a big difference when we talk about age group discussions between a 6 and 7-year-old versus an 8 and 9-year-old. So a lot of more focused time on that. And then also, how the kids are going to come and what they're going to look like in terms of developmental age and what their needs are going to be is a little bit different. I've hired the staff at Somerset for a really long time and collaborated with Dave at Manitou with it. So, we have our leadership team is made up of mostly young teachers or teachers in general, like all 5 of us who are going to be on the leadership team are teaching or in education at some point in our lives right now, or have been. But I think the staff makeup is very similar to what we've done at Somerset and Manitou, the 18 to 25-year-old who has education as, the forefront of what they're looking towards, or their experiences, who really wanted, when I talked to a lot of them, they wanted also a smaller camp feel. Like, I can say to them, if you're thinking about somewhere like Somerset, that's like a community of 500 people. We're going to be a community of less than 100. Like, that's a different feel. So what are you looking for? And a lot of them who are interested in this age group were really excited about that. We're flying across the world and we want that small camp feel. And so that was a different sort of type of staff member that I've gotten versus like people who want to go to a big time giant community.
Yeah, for
Can I jump
sure.
in, Stace? One thing I wanted to say, when we were building out the calendar too, we think a lot about training the staff in terms of like the orientation that happens before camp. And we felt pretty strongly that we knew we needed to align, because kids that are coming to Eastwood are not doing that the whole summer. It also aligns with whatever else they have going on in their summer, whether that's day camp, whether that's family trips. And so we knew we wanted to sort of run a camp from like a weekend to a weekend, starting and ending. And so the way it fell, we've been able to build in basically a day between each session. And so, thinking back to like parents of young kids, when they are requiring more support for things, it can be exhausting emotionally for caregivers of young kids in ways that are a lot different than managing. And I'm living it now as, being a mom to a teenager, and it's so challenging in so many other ways. But knowing that staff members
I don't know what you're
were
talking
going to
about.
be, yeah, you can't relate at all. Knowing that staff members were probably going to come out of a session, even if they only had, somebody, a bunk of kids for a week or 2 weeks, that probably it's going to feel like it feels when you're a parent of a little kid, and that it's going to be exhausting in ways that maybe they're not going to get as much sleep as, not that any camp counselor gets a lot of sleep, but they might even get less than, than kids that are in older bunks, and things like that. And so we are excited that basically our staff are all going to have a day off between sessions. Our kids will go home.
I was
And
going to
so
ask that.
we'll have a day. So the day on departure day, we're going to be able to, start to prepare for the next round of kids and get everything ready. And then they're going to have a day off together, which hopefully will be able to give everybody. And Stacey and I are also, again,
There's no
shout out
kids
to
at
Jack.
camp? That's never happened.
I know, exactly.
Right.
And then we can really set our sights on the next group of kids coming in. But we're hoping that helps give the staff a chance to be able to sort of reset between sessions, and also give us a chance to take a moment on that changeover time to be like, okay, what did we learn from this last session, so that we can then, with this next group of kids, in a way that you can't typically do that with a long session camp. So
Well, I can tell you from my own experience, just navigating through 8 weeks of day camp to overnight camp, week in, week out, because I travel to my overnight camp on the weekends to
Oh,
support
no
and
way.
do
I
that.
didn't know
So
that.
yeah, so
Wow.
my for Sari and myself for almost 25 years is, you know, shedding our day camp sensibilities on the way up to overnight camp, because the sensibilities of supervision for younger kids versus your older returning more established overnight campers, and the expectations of, because listen, we know the staff who return feel they've paid their dues with the younger kids, they're always requesting the older kids.
They're
We
going
know
up.
that,
Yeah,
right? Like we know
exactly.
that. So the fact is that the
So
fact
true.
that, and I think for anyone listening to this who is, kind of trying to design or see the kind of setting they want to be, these kind of intentional conversations around a 1 week experience for first graders, with the amount of supervision, the intensity of the supervision by the staff, calls for a different kind of respite before the next group comes. And we don't, those of us in the long stay overnight world, like it just flows. They get their day off, they recharge, they come back. We know the way it works. So
Mhm.
I think it's really good that you address that, in this intentional way, because you've both seen it all in the long stay experience. So I just needed to add that because I think it's a huge thing. And then picking the staff who you feel can deliver on that. Are you finding whatever balance in terms of international staff and domestic staff? Are you, like we're all looking at staffing in all kinds of different ways, that you're looking to bring some international staff, because we know the young kids love the international staff.
Yeah, yeah. We're definitely bringing international staff. And because when you are new, the same thing happened at Somerset, and you don't have former campers yet, or
Yeah.
you don't have that, 80 years of Manitou to have to pull on. You
Right.
have to rely on international staff until you can build that community. So it's a good combination of both right now. Yeah. And in that in between time, Howie, to your point, is also like you have to learn a whole new set of kids who are coming in. So you have to give time for that to be able to, do camper profiles on the next session who's coming. So
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. No, I think that's so smart. What a gift. It's a gift really to the two of you
It is a gift.
for sure. And your staff. It really
Yes.
is. It really is. But I think that's so smart because in the day camp world, there are so many changes we make during the summer and because we can. Something that I love hearing, that's why I wanted to know what grades you taught, because just some of the things that you're saying, also intentionality of your programming. Like when you say outdoor, like we have mud kitchens. So when you talk about like your
Yeah.
outdoor, like mud kitchens, when you
Yes.
talk about fairy gardens, which a lot of overnight camps don't have that, kids, but like for Howie and I, we have those. Howie is even younger than me, but entering kindergarten. So those are the things. It's like, how do you adapt archery? Well, you have to have the range be
Exactly.
shorter and different bows. And you have to have,
Mhm.
we have outdoor classroom time in between other things
Yeah.
because they just got to
Yes.
play.
Yes. We're
We
doing the
got to
same
have a
thing.
snack.
Yes.
They get
Yes.
hangry. Like I love as a day camp person hearing the intentionality that you're doing with these young kids. Like it's so developmentally appropriate. So if I were
Yeah.
a parent, I'd be like, yes, 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 because it's
Thank
not
you.
like you're just trying to do overnight camp for little kids. You are doing
Mhm.
overnight camp in a way that is best for them.
Yeah.
And I think that's just awesome. It sounds
Thank
chef's
you.
kiss.
thank you, Kelly.
Thank
We
you, Kelly.
appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
that's
I'm
great.
most excited about the fairy gardens and the outdoor
Yeah.
kitchen in our
yeah.
I have big visions for,
Adventure
building out
wood.
our
Adventure.
adventure woods,
Well,
and getting the kids in nature.
you're talking to two people who almost on a daily basis are in costumes at day camp with kids. So we the fact that we
Can
want
I come
pictures of the two of
visit?
you.
Jeez, I want to come.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah. Kelly and I share pictures like almost on a daily basis. What did you dress up today? Da da da.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
It's super fun. Super fun.
You
But
should
yeah.
come. You should come.
I actually would
R&D.
love
Come
to
and see
come.
my outdoor classroom. Come.
Love it.
Yes,
Oh
please
my
come.
gosh, I
Yeah.
would love to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to
Our free,
chat dates.
yeah.
Okay.
All of our free play space is amazing, amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
Is there, given obviously you have as we close out this wonderful conversation, and yes, listeners, we are planning a part 2 in season 7 to say, how did it go? Because we are doing that
Yes,
early in
yes.
season 7.
Woo.
So, but as we continue this great conversation, when you think about your friendship and your working relationship with the Somerset and Manitou ownership, like, is there like a piece of advice or some learning that you've done based on their mentorship or the style that they have that are really informing the way you are moving forward? I mean, it's so unique, but I'm just curious, as we all remember certain pieces of advice that mentors and all that stuff. Does anything come to mind immediately as you've taken on this new venture?
I feel like
Oh
they
my
really
gosh.
are good. A good partner is like key, obviously. But playing off each other's strengths and really just
Mm.
like we do with our campers and our staff that we really want to celebrate. I mean, that's one of the beauties of camp that I say all the time to make it different than school is just like everything is celebrated. And I think it starts at the
Mhm.
top. Like if we really value each other's strengths and play off them, like we can't do it all, right? We can't do
Right.
every part. We can't be good at every part. It's like as a PE teacher, I'm like, I can teach all the sports, but I'm
Yeah.
not a very good tennis partner or whatever it is, right? Like,
Yes.
and
It was
so
bad. It was badminton for me when I was a phys ed teacher.
and also like communication, like just being
Yeah.
honest and putting everything out there and spending a lot of time like with each other to get to know like what our needs are and what
No.
being in the same mindset. We've talked a lot about leadership mindsets and how we want to proceed and what culture we want to start from the top to bring down.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with all of that. And I think for me also, the other piece of it is trust, and that kind of goes hand in hand. And so part of that I think is the fact that Stacey and I have had a relationship, for a long time, but then also the trust that we have, from Manitou and Somerset, and, coming from those experiences, I think has been really key. And like Stacey said, communication. So
Lovely. I can't wait to hear how it went because
Guys,
it's
we're excited to come back and tell you.
what yeah, I mean, because what do they say? You win some and you learn some. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to hear
yes.
about your wins and I'm
What are the
excited to hear
wins?
about your learns.
I'm sure
Mhm,
we're going to have
mhm.
some good stories.
Yes.
And like I said, ladies, if it doesn't burn to the ground, success. You
Thank
did
you.
it.
Yes.
It's great.
Thank you.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Kelly, it
Awesome.
might be that
All
time.
right.
Oh
Yeah, should we
no.
move to our rapid fire questions? Are you
Yeah.
ready?
I'm so
Yes.
Yeah.
excited. Yes.
Okay, this is fun. This is fun. All right, we will just so we don't be confused about who's answering first. We're going to go Lauren first and then Stacey because that's who you are on my screen. Okay.
Perfect.
All right, rapid fire questions. Lauren, what's your favorite camp meal?
Lazy Sunday breakfast, wood-fired breakfast pizza.
Oh, wood fired
Oh.
in your
Very specific.
jammies. I can see it. Nice. Okay, Stacey.
Either quesadillas or Chef Dakota makes a great steak tip recipe. So I like steak tips and quesadillas. Yeah.
Whoa.
Wow, you fancy in the Northeast. Wow. Okay. If you could lead any program area, what would it be, Lauren?
That for me is easy. It's for Eastwood. It's adventure. The fort making. We're gonna have a fort making in the woods. Loose
Oh,
parts, outdoor kitchen, berry houses, nature obstacle course. Like I'm in there all day.
Cool. Stacey?
I'm swimming. I'm aquatics. I want to be in the water. Like I said, I'm landlocked and I just want to be in the
yeah.
water as much as I can. So I would do aquatics if I could.
Okay, I did see that picture on your website of you going on a water slide with some red substance. So I got a
Yeah.
water vibe from
It's like
that. I want
that's
to know
dirty
about that
day.
later.
That's dirty day. That's Jello. Not real Jello, but
Okay, I'm going to follow up about that. All right, s'mores, burnt or golden brown, Lauren?
Golden.
Golden. Stacey?
golden, same Z. Yeah.
Okay. No carcinogens here. Okay, missed home as a camper that made it hard to enjoy camp or peace out parents. Thea, Lauren.
Yeah, missed home.
Oh,
Didn't
yeah.
even go.
Okay.
Wouldn't have made it.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Stacey?
Yes. Missed home. Did not go for very long. No.
Okay. So you'll have great empathy if that happens for kids.
Oh, for
All right, is a camp pro on the phone or in the action, Lauren?
I had a question about that, and the more you get to know me, the more you'll know I ask a lot of questions. But I think I may be I may be both, because I think in the action, but also on the computer, maybe not on the phone. I don't
Uh-huh.
know.
Okay.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
digging into
All right.
spreadsheets and logistics
Yeah,
and all that good stuff.
yeah,
Getting the bus schedules going, drop offs. Yeah,
exactly.
Which
gotcha.
is why we're
Okay.
such great partners because I'm in the action.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Great. Last one. Favorite camp song?
Oh my God, I laughed at this because I literally was like, I'm at a boys camp. They don't even sing song. Like, I don't even know if I know a camp song. Like, is there a camp song? And then I was like, oh, wait a second. And then I thought about it and I thought like, okay, there is like the Fight Alma song and then there's
Yeah.
Taps. So I think Taps is, I don't know, does that
Okay.
count? Taps is my
Sure.
my favorite, I think.
That's interesting to think about that maybe at some boys' camp they don't sing. That I've never thought about that before. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay, Stacey.
Well, Lauren stole mine because I said taps because I remember when my kids were infants and I'm like, I'm supposed to sing to them. And I'm like, I don't know. What song do I sing to them? We just started singing taps to them when they were like really little in the crib. And so now it has this double meaning is like now when I go back, we sing taps. I'm like, oh, I don't sing to them anymore. They're older. So it kind of has that amazing like camp and family feel, which
Yeah.
both my
Core,
kids grew up
core,
at camp. So it was perfect.
core
Wait,
memory
I
stuff.
have a question. Do you
music.
guys
Yeah.
do songs at day camp? Like, is it when I saw
Oh,
that,
yeah.
I thought like, okay, we're singing songs in the dining hall, but which we don't do at Manitou. Do you guys do that?
We do.
All
We
the
do a
time.
lot of singing. A lot of the youngest kids do a
Wow.
lot of singing. We have we have song leaders. We have mass gatherings where we have signature camp songs that the whole community sings together at gatherings. All
Wow.
that stuff. Yeah.
Think kids can learn songs in a week? You think that's doable?
Mm,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
100%. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
do songs every morning on opening flag and closing flag. And then in the
Yeah.
middle, we bring everybody in the middle for tennis court, like announcements and stuff. So we do songs at
Yeah.
all of those. Mhm.
And when you
Oh,
come up
cool.
with the Eastwood song, which you will,
Yes.
it'll be part of your onboarding for campers
Adding that
before
to
they
my
come
list.
back next year. And so
Yeah,
they'll all
Yeah.
come
Mhm.
knowing the song, right?
yes.
Yes.
It's true.
Yes.
Although, you know what? Honestly, one quick thing, Stacey and I talked about, like, we're so curious how many kids will come back because it's like, Jackie from Kippo Point has talked about this. If we've done our job maybe well enough, they're ready to move on to another camp and then they're not
Mhm.
back, but also they might be back. And so we were wondering that, like, how many kids are going to be back to know the traditions of things? We don't know. We'll see.
That,
Mm,
yeah.
That's interesting.
A- And and what exciting challenges ahead of you to figure that out too. Like those are the best problems to have, right? Like so
Mhm.
exciting. We wish that for you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
This has been so good. A real special topic, a unique one for Kelly and and we just love. I personally can feel the synergy of your partnership and your friendship, and that
Thank
can
you.
only lead to good things. So we both wish you the best, and
Thank
we
you.
can't wait to check in after
Thank
the
you.
season
You-
to
I
see
guess
how
we're
it
gonna,
all went.
Stacey, we're gonna have to send them texts of us in costumes. That's the
Yes,
next.
A hundred,
we will.
a
We will.
100%,
Only
100%.
if you'll send them back from you guys to us.
Oh, that won't be a problem.
Okay,
Yep.
deal.
Agreed.
Um,
Agreed.
Deal.
if our listeners want to get a hold of you, ask a question, pick your brain. I know it's a tough time of year, but
Yeah.
we as camp people have always benefited from the people we've reached
Yes.
out to. I know you're the same.
Mhm.
Can you please share with us, Stacey, how do people get a hold of you
Yes.
if they're curious?
Yes, Stacey, so STACEY at campeastwood.com. And yeah,
Amazing.
anytime. Happy to help, just like others have helped us for sure.
Mm.
Lauren?
I'm Lauren, LAUREN at campeastwood.com. I'm also, I don't know, I'm on Instagram and
Yeah, please throw it out there.
yeah. So my name is Mama, MAMAB 43. So
Sweet.
yeah.
All right. Mama
I'll
B.
message. Mama B.
Let's do it. Kelly.
Yep. Old fashioned email, Kelly with a Y at hiddenpinesranch.com. And then the show notes, my Instagram at KJShuna3 is also there. What about you, Howie?
Amazing. Howie at camprobinhood.ca because we're north of the border. We like that URL. And you can also find me on social media channels at Howie Grossinger, Instagram, etc., which would be great. And please reach out. We also, Kelly and I, want to thank our sponsors at Camptivities for keeping the lights on. We want to thank the team at Go Camp Pro for supporting the work that Kelly and I do in this area. We love it. Please don't forget that you can find all of our show notes at gocamp.pro/ownerspod. You can find the resources that we mentioned in this episode and lots of good stuff from our show and other Go Camp Pro podcasts out there, which are fantastic. So please check those out. We hope you enjoyed this. We wish everyone a safe, successful, and happy season and can't wait to see you, share with you, and reconnect in the fall. All the best, everyone, and thanks for joining us on the Camp Owners Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to the Camp Owners Podcast. If you like what you heard, Please leave us a review on Apple Music or wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget, you can find our show notes at gocamp.pro/ownerspod. The Camp Owners Podcast is part of the Go Camp Pro podcast network. Find a podcast for camp pros of every age and stage at gocamp.pro/podcast.
Hey, Camp Pros. We love that our industry is built on sharing. In order to foster that spirit, if you've gotten even one good idea from a Go Camp Pro podcast, a masterclass, from the Summer Camp Pros group on Facebook, at a conference, or wherever else, we ask that you give credit where credit is due. That way, we can encourage camp pros to keep freely sharing their brilliant ideas and make the camp industry better. Thanks very much.